Welcome to the show. I'm once again joined by my friend and business partner, Mr. Michael Vincent, podcast extraordinaire. And we're going to be talking about cleaning up the ocean and related news. And you got to check out Michael's shirt.
I am the stud muffin. So right here.
I love it. And, I'm excited to work with Michael on plastics waste reduction, fuel reduction, emissions reduction, all with monetary gains. It's an exciting time to be alive, isn't it?
It really is. And people will be like, wow, there's so many problems and issues in the world, but there's so much opportunity and there's so many cool things that are happening. Yeah, a lot of them are dangerous. Where are we going with AI? What are we going to do about, getting to carbon neutral by 2050, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But that's what makes it exciting, man. I mean, it's yin and yang, dude. There can't be all that victory without losses, and there can't be excitement without, the reverse.
Right. It opens up opportunities and it makes changes,
Absolutely.
Yep. So, you shared an article with me, Michael, on this whole cleaning up the ocean. I'm sure most everybody out there has heard of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's like the size of France, I think they said.
It's the size of France. People are going on vacation on the garbage patch now. That's how they
book a trip. Yeah. Where are we going, honey? We're going to the garbage patch.
It's not true.
But, it's interesting because there is this organization, the Ocean Cleanup, and they're doing some massive cleanup work. And we've got this article talking about there's actually these marine ecosystems that are developing around these garbage patches. And it talks about the currents and how cereal in a bowl just kind of collects in one spot. Basically, that's happening. And then there's ecosystems that are kind of hanging around, attaching to it as well. But all in all, the amount of plastics being taken out of the ocean is pretty incredible from everything I saw there.
Yeah, they're doing some tremendous work out there. They really are. I'm all for what they're doing. And, part of it is, in that article, because I've read some other stuff where it kind of, talked about, how ocean, they'll make like artificial reefs, right, to start attracting the coral and start building and bringing back and building back different, marine ecosystems, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's not like this. Like these, like you call them, what are they called? Neustons,
it looks like.
Neuston. Yeah. It's like there because of the plastic. They're there normally anyways. It's just that they float and move in the currents like the plastic, and therefore they congregate in the same areas because of the currents and their likeness in nature and how they float, right?
Right, exactly. There's various floating organisms, kind of like jellyfish, these snails, certain kinds of snails I saw in the article. There's snails that have a sail that sticks out of the water, and the water just, the air and current just takes them along,
What?
So, yeah. That was pretty interesting to see that. But they kind of congregate because of the ocean current and the winds and so forth. Yeah. It just kind of all comes together, it looks like to me.
Yeah, the gyres, it all moves similarly. And so the ocean cleanup is kind of not advantageous to those neustons, I guess, right?
Right. But, some of the neustons get caught up in that. Is one of the things the article was talking about. But if you look at the amount of plastics being pulled out versus the amount of neuston, it's like probably 1,000 to 1 or more than that, probably. So
yeah. I mean, we'd have to defer to some marine biologists who actually know this stuff rather than a headline that may be armed at. I mean, it was good clickbait, right? Because it was like, wait a minute, we're screwing up by doing this. Well, and reading through it, maybe not so much, right? And plus, it's not there. There's no evidence there that says, hey, we shouldn't be cleaning up the plastic, right?
No, I don't hear anybody saying stop it. I don't hear anybody saying no, we don't need to take that garbage out of the big massive garbage patch. I don't hear anybody saying that.
Exactly. But what it does, what it hits home with me is the things that I tell people, like, my company, OPT USA Incorporated, right? It's Ocean Plastic Technologies, right? Our focus isn't taking ocean plastic out of the ocean. And it's not 100% on just recycling plastic that has been taken out of the ocean, right? Now, though, recycling of plastic that has been removed from the ocean is one of our things, but our biggest focus is ocean-bound plastic and land plastic, right? So plastic that is potentially and a high percentage rate going to wind up in the ocean, cutting off the valve, so to speak, right? So, like, Andy, if you run into your bathroom and you left the bath running because you're going to take your bubble bath that you take. I know you like your bubble bath with your White Claw and a little bit of, soft jazz in the evenings.
Got to have some candles. Add some candles.
And some candles going. So you got it going. The bubbles are going, and then somebody rings the doorbell, and suddenly you're distracted. You come back, and it's overflowing, right?
Right.
What I don't want you to do is run into the garage and get a bucket and start bailing. Or start mopping. You turn the valve off first, or at the same time, if you got two pair of hands, if you can get your wife or somebody to get the bucket while you're turning off the valve, that'd be great. And that's kind of what this shows is really, really important, because we got to clean this up, but we don't want to also just keep skimming the surface of the ocean forever and removing garbage, because we've just discovered neustons. What's the next thing we're going to discover that we're screwing up by doing this, right?
Right. Stop it at the valve. Stop it at the source.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As close to sources as possible. And, there's other news that's in here too, that kind of relates to this as well. If you want to go through some of those.
Yeah. I was going to touch on some other news items with you. You brought a couple with you today. So
I did, because they're really interesting. And I think that they make perfect sense, and they kind of lead to what you and I do separately and together, and what this particular episode is about. And one of them is this company called Blair Block, right? They're in Alabama, and they're making concrete blocks, but they're making concrete blocks that diminish the carbon by 70 to 100% in building concrete blocks, cinder blocks, right? The concrete blocks for building, moving 500 tons of atmospheric carbon each year with these things.
Wow. That is very interesting. So
they not only, the first line of blocks that they're producing will avoid at least 2,000 tons of carbon being emitted into the atmosphere through the production of them. But then they also sequester up to 500 tons once they're made.
Wow.
Pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
And listen, they're the same cost or cheaper than regular concrete blocks.
There you go. See, that's an example of there's things that we can do right now to reduce plastics waste, to reduce fuel, to reduce emissions with actual cost savings at the same time. The argument that I've heard over the years is we're just tired of basically all these new regulations and new tiers of engines and everything, and DEF fluid and blah scrubbers, and it's always like cost. But you and I have the pleasure of working together to help companies save money, bring monetary gains while going greener. So that's fun.
We absolutely do, because here's another thing in plastics. You know that a pound of plastics through its life, through its production, is equal to 7.8 pounds of carbon dioxide of CO2 emissions. It produces that, right?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, 7.89. And or 6 pounds, I think it's 6 pounds. And then it's like 6 pounds. And then the amount of CO2 emissions that comes out of a truck, right? Per mile. Every 1 pound of plastics that we recycle and put back into industry is equal to 7.89 miles of driving in a diesel Class 8 truck.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And the other thing is incinerating plastic. The amount of carbon that comes off of incinerating plastic, it's this black plume of smoke that's just,
it's ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. It cannot be.
And even the VOCs, it's like it's like concentrating on the CO2 emissions and saying, well, we're doing CO2 emissions in diesel. That's the thing. Well, it is one of the things. The other, the NOx that are coming out there are the ones that, like, in the neighborhoods that typically are lower income neighborhoods around all the DC centers outside of Chicago, et cetera. That's where, the kids and the people running around where their lung cancer rates are much higher than everybody else's because of the NOx, right? I mean, that's the VOCs coming out of that plastic, nasty stuff, right? I mean, there's much nastier stuff for your body than the CO2 coming out of those plastics. They're called chemicals. They're polymers.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yep. No, and there was a big study by Harvard during the COVID pandemic about the instances of COVID and the death rates in areas with high emissions concentrations. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it only makes sense because that emissions affects our lungs and it makes them not as strong. And then so you compound that with a virus like that, and then it's just bad news for everybody.
Yeah, it's bad news for everybody. It's not a good situation. It needs to be reduced. And it is an example of things that you need to do. You can wait around if you want to, Andy, for all kinds of different solutions, and flying cars that run on lithium crystals or whatever they were from Star Trek, right? or like this. Check this out. Here's another. What the grills, ribs on our trucks, right? Why don't we just wait and see if we can just produce electricity through those grills, just through ambient air? Because here's the thing. ScienceAlert.com, I ran across this a couple days ago. So engineers at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, which I don't know if you know this, but right around that whole area, there's a lot of smart people in colleges and universities. I don't know if you've heard of like MIT and Harvard and stuff.
Yes, like that. I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're producing electricity with different types of materials just out of ambient air. The humidity, the molecules in the air, the theory started with, the rain clouds, right? Rain clouds they're just water droplets. It's condensed humidity in all reality. And then you start to get that friction and boom, you've got lightning, right? You start moving neutrons and electrons and that type of stuff. And it starts, you get your electric. Well, that happens in humidity too. I don't know if I don't know how it is where you live. You're out in Oklahoma, right? In Ohio, in the winter, where I grew up, there's no humidity in the air. So you walk around and you shake somebody's hand and you're going to get a jolt of lightning like you never felt before the first time you do it, right? You got to know what you're doing, and you got to have humidifiers. We purposely put humidity into the air in our houses because of that. Right. That's the electrical effect we're talking about here. And they put these nanopores on these two pieces of material, and it's almost any kind of material that they figured out that it can do this, and it can generate electricity.
Very interesting.
Yeah, like two single sheets are only doing a few like milliamps, which isn't going to do anything. But when you stack them, you have the ability to stack them on top of each other. Now you're talking about something that can actually run useful energy out of just ambient air with some humidity inside it, which is pretty cool. It's very cool. And when you think about a nanopore, it's like we're talking about like 1,000th of the width of a human hair are these holes that they have to make, right?
Wow.
So it's not entirely. You and I aren't going to go out and start doing this in our garage and make money,
right?
It's tough.
Yep.
But so let's put that on the grills of the machines and see how that works, right? Or we can start looking for something that's going to make our our engines cleaner and our fuel and our fleets cleaner right now and not wait, right? I mean, there's those opportunities right now, aren't there?
Yep. You can save money on fuel, reduce your fuel consumption, reduce the amount of money you spend on fuel, reduce emissions at combustion with our cyber fuel solution that we're talking about. And then, of course, plastics. There's tons and tons of opportunity, literally massive tons of opportunity to do better with plastics, no doubt.
Yeah, well, both of them are tons. There's tons and tons of plastics that we can do better with, and there's tons and tons of carbon that we can keep out of the air. Right?
Absolutely.
That we can keep out of the air. We don't have to wait. And we can, and in the meantime, you got people like the people at, UMass Amherst who are putting nanopores in film and creating electricity out of just straight up air, which is unbelievable.
Wasn't it Benjamin Franklin that went outside with the kite and a key in a electrical storm to capture electricity? Well,
that's the story. I didn't witness it firsthand. I cannot verify that that's a true story, but that is the story. Yes.
You know what? Here in Oklahoma City, we get these massive thunderstorms. I mean, big thunderstorms. And there will be hundreds and hundreds of lightning strikes in a certain area. They've got the technology now to say 150 lightning strikes right there. I'm wondering if somebody will create something to capture that electricity, because that is some strong electricity.
Right. No, it really is. I mean, that's the thing is you can't, if you can't harvest it, you can't do anything with it. But if you can harvest the source, right? I mean, that's the theory. If you can harvest from the source before it builds up to that and pull it yourself, then maybe you've got something here, right? I mean, this is just passive, generic. They call it generic air gen effect, which is they're just using film. They're just using a cellulose film. They've got these nanopores in it. They position them and they spontaneously create voltage in humid air and just ambient air, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying, okay, now when we scale this up, because it looks very scalable, you can scale this up and place it in places like, I don't know, Orlando in August, where it's like humid as hell. And boom, you've got these energy sources, because it's the sudden release of that much voltage in a lightning bolt that is the issue, right? It's the sudden release. Right. Yeah,
I'd love it if somebody deployed something that would knock those storms down by about 90%. That would be awesome. But I don't know. I don't know when that's coming. But no, it's really, really interesting tech. It's very, very interesting. But it makes sense. You see lightning and flashes when you grab a doorknob or whatever. It's there. I mean, there is electricity in the air. So no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, there is, and the static electricity is there and you can harvest it. But the point is, people are working on all these little things, but we don't have to sit around and have this miracle cure. And we don't have to sit around and wait until we have to possibly destroy environments to clean things up. There's things that you can do right now that aren't destroying environments, that are helping stuff. There's cyber fuels. You can do that type of stuff, right? There's all this data and study and training from the information that's grabbed off of all the IoT devices on your trucks, for instance, to teach people how to drive better and incent them to drive better. You no stranger to it, Andy. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You can change your fuel mileage on your car just by driving correctly, right? You can do the same thing in a diesel truck, and it's somewhat easier actually in a diesel truck.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a much bigger engine than the one I've got on my little Ford F-150, guaranteed. So a lot more fuel usage, a lot more opportunity. But yeah, we're doing some really cool stuff with collecting data, off of these engines with engine load, fuel economy. I love this work. It's just so much fun. And then, of course, on the plastics reduction, plastics waste reduction, I should say. There's opportunities. Work with Michael on either of these. You can click on the link below on the Sustainiacs page, get in touch with Michael. I'll be there to support. We'd love to help you guys make some more money at the same time.
Yeah, and if you click on there and we start doing a study and look at this, we could talk about cool things like I didn't even bring up hydrodynamic drives. How about that?
Say that 3 times fast.
I can't even say it once slowly.
No, I caught a little clip of your show that was very interesting. That tech is also very, very interesting.
It's crazy, man. I mean,
Yeah.
Running a ship with magnets and electric currents and no propeller or shaft or anything like that.
Yeah. Boy, that is
Okay.
something else.
Yeah, that's nuts. Of course, it's a diesel generator creating the electricity.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
kidding,
you've got that.
just kidding. That's why you need the cyber fuels. Put that in there.
That's right. Use your cyber fuels. Get the best burn, the cleanest burn on your fuel. Save yourself some money at the same time. And
Nothing better.
we'd love to help you do that.
Sweet. Nothing better than a clean burn. A good clean burn.
Absolutely. Well, very interesting, Michael. As always, fun to talk about things that are happening in the world of sustainability. And I guess that'll do it for this show. Thanks for listening or watching, everybody. And we will see you again on the next one. Take care.
Peace and love.